Have you ever looked in the mirror and realized the man staring back at you is a ghost of who you could have been? Not because you were lazy, not because you lacked ambition, but because you let the wrong woman inside your gates. And she didn't knock down the walls. She simply sat inside and lit a slow fire. This isn't a love story. It's a wake-up call. If you're a man who's ever questioned why your fire has dimmed, your focus blurred, your purpose hijacked, this video is the map back to yourself. Because while modern culture feeds you fairy tales about soulmates, about unconditional love, Machiavelli offered something far more dangerous and far more real, a strategy. Today we're going to expose the silent collapse most men don't see coming, the one they choose while thinking they're in control. And I'm going to tell you a story. There was a man, driven, disciplined, respected. But slowly, subtly, the woman he trusted began to reshape him. She didn't scream. She didn't demand. She just rearranged his soul, one compromise at a time. By the time he woke up, he wasn't the man he once was. He was smaller, softer, quieter. Not because she broke him, but because he handed her the tools. If you've ever felt that shift, like something powerful inside you has been dulled, you're not alone. And you're not doomed unless you stay the same. So if this already speaks to something buried deep in you, drop a 1 in the comments, like this video, and subscribe for more truth you won't hear anywhere else. Because now, we begin. Most men don't fall in a blaze. They collapse in silence, over time, unnoticed by the very people they thought they were building for. It starts small, a compromise here, a concession there. She doesn't support your vision, but you tell yourself she'll come around. She mocks your discipline, and you laugh it off, to keep the peace. You stop saying what you believe, because you fear her reaction more than you value your own truth. You justify, rationalize, spiritualize, until one day, the man you used to be, the one who had a code, a mission, a spine, is gone. Not with a bang, but with a slow unraveling of your identity. This collapse doesn't come because men are weak. It comes because men are unaware. Unaware of what happens when you give your heart before you check her character. Unaware of how much energy it takes to maintain a fantasy. Unaware that some women don't need to attack you. They just need you to stop attacking your comfort. And so, most men only realize the truth after the damage is done, when the career has stalled, when the friendships are gone, when the fire that once burned inside has turned to ash. They stand at the funeral of their own potential, not because they weren't gifted, but because they allowed the wrong woman to shape their world. Society won't warn you. Your friends are too polite. And your family might not even see it, but you feel it. The tension in your gut every time she talks down to you. The regret that creeps in when you lie awake next to someone you no longer trust. The quiet mourning of a future you once believed in. This is not about blame. It's about recognition. Because no transformation begins until the man admits he's not where he's supposed to be. You must see the collapse, not to hate her, but to save you. Ask yourself, what are you sacrificing right now to keep her comfortable? What part of your identity are you silencing just to avoid an argument? What dreams have been delayed because she couldn't see them? This isn't about control, it's about clarity. Because until you acknowledge the collapse, you will keep falling, slowly, quietly, until nothing remains but a shell, and the story of who you could have been. So let me ask you this. What's more painful, being alone for a season, or living the rest of your life as a shadow? If you've ever felt like you were shrinking in a relationship that was supposed to grow you, comment "never again" below, and stay with me, because in the next part, we'll uncover what Machiavelli knew centuries ago that modern men desperately need to remember. Niccolo Machiavelli lived in a time of kings and conquest. A world where trust could kill you faster than a sword. And while most remember him for cold strategy, what they forget is that he warned men, not just about enemies in armor, but about seduction disguised as loyalty. Machiavelli wasn't writing for romantics, the old wisdom says. He wrote for rulers. And here's the truth no modern man wants to admit. In relationships, most men aren't ruling. They're hoping she changes, hoping she softens, hoping that this time it's different. But hope is not a strategy. Machiavelli warned, "He who seeks to deceive will always find someone who allows himself to be deceived." In other words, the deceiver isn't the threat. The man who lets it happen is. See, we live in an age where emotion is worshipped and discernment is demonized. If you question a woman's history, you're called insecure. If you set boundaries, you're labeled controlling. If you walk away from dysfunction, they say you're toxic. But Machiavelli didn't care for opinions. He dealt in outcomes. And the outcome is this. If you let the wrong woman inside your kingdom, she won't just sit on your throne. She'll sell it for validation. He taught that power, once given, is almost never returned. So why do men today hand over their emotional capital to anyone with a pretty face and a tragic story? Because we've been trained to prioritize connection over clarity, affection over alignment, hope over history. But a king cannot afford that luxury, and Machiavelli knew it. A ruler doesn't ask, "Does she love me?" He asks, "Is she aligned with my mission?" Because emotion without alignment leads to destruction, and loyalty without vision is nothing but proximity. Here's what you must understand. The world won't warn you. Most of your friends won't either. They're in the same trap. But history, it speaks. And Machiavelli left clues for those wise enough to listen. So here's your reminder. You are not here to be adored. You are here to build. And if her presence subtracts from your focus, your fire, or your future, you are not in love. You are in danger. This isn't cruelty. It's clarity. Because in a world where emotion is currency, discernment is your only armor. If you're ready to sharpen that armor, drop a comment. Lead like a ruler, like this video. Share it with a brother who's been lost in illusions, and get ready. Next, we reveal the brutal truth behind the women who seem beneficial, but destroy silently. Let's cut through the noise. There are only two types of women in your life, beneficial or destructive. That's it. Not, "She's working on herself," not, "It's complicated," not, "She has potential." Those are just soft words masking a hard truth. She either multiplies your life, or she drains it. And the most dangerous kind, the ones who look beneficial, but live parasitically. They applaud your ambition until it takes time away from them. They smile at your vision until it requires sacrifice they're not willing to make. They praise your strength until that strength resists their control. These women don't break you with screaming fits. They break you with silence, with delayed responses, with subtle doubt, with passive rebellion. They don't tell you to quit your goals. They just quietly resent them. And the longer you stay, the more you confuse this sabotage for love. Because modern men, we weren't taught to spot this. We were told to look for beauty, compatibility, connection. But no one told us to look for alignment. No one taught us to ask the real question. Does this woman strengthen my standards or soften them? Let's get brutally honest. Most men stay with destructive women not because they're unaware, but because they're afraid of what walking away will cost them. They fear loneliness. They fear judgment. They fear starting over. But let me ask you this. What's the price of staying with someone who is slowly killing your potential? Your time, your purpose, your peace, gone. And for what? A smile that fades when you speak your truth? A warmth that disappears the moment you stop entertaining her chaos? Brothers, this isn't about hate. It's about survival. Because while you're being patient, she's perfecting the art of distraction. While you're hoping she changes, she's learning exactly how much of you she can reshape before you break. Don't fall for the mask. Study the pattern. Judge not what she says, but what she supports when no one is watching. If you've ever been with a woman who praised your dreams in public, then mocked them in private, comment, "I've lived this," because you're not alone. But it ends here. In the next chapter, we'll break down how power is lost, not taken, and how men hand it over disguised as love. Power is rarely stolen, it's handed over. And in relationships, men do this all the time. But they call it something noble: compromise, understanding, love. You think you're keeping the peace. You think you're being strong enough to bend. But here's the truth Machiavelli understood, and most men never will. The moment you negotiate your authority, you've already surrendered it. It doesn't happen in one dramatic blow. It happens in the soft erosion of your standards. She wants you to skip the gym just this once. She mocks your morning routine. It's too much. She rolls her eyes when you speak about your goals. You laugh it off. You adapt. You bend. And slowly, she stops respecting you. Not because you're not good, but because you're not grounded. Machiavelli wrote, "It is far safer to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both." He wasn't talking about cruelty. He was talking about consequence. A man who leads without consequence is not leading. He's performing. And here's the part no one tells you. She will test you. Not because she's cruel, but because she needs to know. Are you real, or are you rehearsed? She'll push. She'll provoke. She'll challenge your boundaries. And if you fold, she owns you. Not in anger, but in quiet contempt. She may still stay, but not out of love. Out of convenience. Because a man who can be emotionally negotiated out of his mission can never be trusted to lead. And once she senses that, she begins to shape you into something softer, something safer, something smaller. You don't lose her affection. You lose your frame. And then one day she whispers, "You've changed." She's right. You collapsed, and she watched it happen. So how do you get it back? You stop apologizing for your spine. You stop shrinking your voice to fit her mood. You stop mistaking silence for peace, because real peace doesn't come from avoidance. It comes from alignment. From standing so firm in your mission that she either adapts or exits. But you never move. If any of this struck something inside you, comment below. No more surrender, and stick around. Because next, we'll expose the tests she gives you, and how your reaction determines whether she follows you or folds you. Every man is tested, not in dramatic, movie-worthy moments, but in the subtle shifts, the quiet challenges, the unspoken questions. Will he fold? Will he lead? Will he enforce the standard, or just talk about it? Here's what you need to understand. A woman doesn't test you to break you. She tests to find you. To find out if you are who you say you are, or just another man performing masculinity until it's inconvenient. She'll interrupt your work to see if you value your focus. She'll question your decisions to test your certainty. She'll push your boundaries, not to destroy them, but to see if they even exist. And if she finds nothing but soft answers and shifting lines, she loses interest. Not because she's evil, but because no woman can follow a man she doesn't respect. Here's the paradox. The moment you start bending to keep her is the moment she starts planning to leave. Maybe not physically, but emotionally, mentally, energetically. She's gone. She wanted your spine, but you gave her your sympathy. She wanted your certainty, but you offered negotiation. And now, she leads. And you trail behind, still calling it love. So what's the fix? Clarity. Clarity in your standards. Clarity in your mission. Clarity in what you will and will not tolerate. Because standards aren't about control, they're about self-respect. When you say, "This is how I live," and you mean it, she knows exactly where she stands. It's not your job to control her behavior. It's your job to control access. She can be who she wants, but not next to you. Unless who she wants to be aligns with what you're building. Men with boundaries don't attract chaos. They expose it and reject it, because chaos cannot survive where there is structure. And feminine energy, at its core, doesn't want to lead, it wants to trust. So give her something to trust. Not charm, not promises, but consistency. Let her see the same man when you're winning, and when you're tested, when she's sweet, and when she's storming. If your standard breaks under pressure, it was never a standard. It was a performance, and you can't lead with a mask. So here's the question. What's one standard you've let slip, just to keep her happy? Own it. Drop it in the comments below. My line is back, because in the next part, we'll talk about boredom, drama, and how it reveals the truth she hides when the thrill fades. Boredom. It sounds harmless, until it burns your kingdom down. See, anyone can be sweet when they're entertained. Anyone can play nice when the spotlight's on. But the real test? What happens when life goes quiet? When the gifts stop? When the chaos fades? When routine replaces romance? What does she become? Does she create peace? Or does she create problems just to feel alive? Most men miss this red flag because it doesn't scream. It simmers. A passive-aggressive comment here. An unexplained mood swing there. Suddenly, your calm becomes too calm for her. And that's when the sabotage begins. She'll pick fights over nothing. She'll create drama when none exists. She'll stir up conflict. Not because she's evil, but because she's addicted. Addicted to emotional intensity. Addicted to novelty. Addicted to the feeling of being chased. And here's the trap. She'll disguise it all as passion, as chemistry, as just needing to talk. But what she really needs is chaos. Because drama is where she feels seen, wanted, important. Still think it's harmless? Watch what happens when you focus, when you grind. When you stop feeding her the emotional roller coaster she craves. She withdraws. She provokes. She threatens to leave. Not because you're doing something wrong, but because she's starving for dysfunction. And if you're not careful, you'll mistake her anxiety for affection, her chaos for chemistry, her boredom for betrayal, because that's what it will become. Here's the truth. A woman who cannot sit in stillness will destroy what you build. Because building anything, wealth, health, legacy, requires stillness, focus, monotony. She won't sabotage it with rage. She'll sabotage it with restlessness. And if she's always seeking stimulation, then your mission will always come second. So here's your test. Observe her in boredom. Does she bring calm? Or does she bring conflict? A woman who thrives in peace is rare. But when you find her, keep her. If this hits home, comment. Peace over chaos. And if you've ever lost focus because you were trying to manage someone else's boredom, you know how costly it is. In the next part, we dig deeper. We'll talk about her past, why it matters, and why ignoring it may cost you everything. They'll tell you her past doesn't matter. They'll say, you're insecure. You're judgmental. You're not giving her a chance. But Machiavelli would have laughed in their faces, because he knew one thing above all. Patterns are prophecy. Her past isn't just history, it's a blueprint. You want to know your future with her? Don't listen to her promises, study her patterns. Does she have a trail of broken relationships? Look closer. Does she blame every ex? Watch out. Does she jump from man to man without ever being alone? Understand this. She's not healing. She's escaping. Because a woman who doesn't sit with her mistakes perfects them. She evolves the manipulation, refines the excuses, learns how to keep you just hopeful enough to stay. But here's what you must accept. You're not her redemption arc. You're just the next chapter in a broken story, unless you rewrite the narrative. You think your patience will change her. You think if you love her hard enough, long enough, deeply enough, she'll see the light. She won't. Not because she can't, but because she doesn't have to. Why would she change when every man before you tolerated the dysfunction? And now, here you are. trying to outlove her past. But love isn't a cure. It's an amplifier. If she's healthy, love expands her. If she's toxic, love excuses her. And she'll let you. She'll let you explain away the red flags. She'll let you carry the emotional weight. She'll let you believe that you're the one who's different. Until one day, you realize the pattern didn't break. It just got better at hiding. This isn't about perfection. It's about accountability. If she hasn't owned her past, she'll repeat it. If she hasn't healed her wounds, she'll bleed on you. And you'll call it love. You'll call it growth. You'll call it just going through a phase. But deep down, you'll feel it. The erosion of your peace. The distraction from your mission. The subtle way your standards start to bend. Don't ignore it. Don't let history repeat just because she's smiling while she lies. So ask yourself, what have you ignored in her past that would terrify you if it were in a man? If you've ever overlooked a pattern because you wanted her to be different, comment below, no more blind eyes, and stick around, because in the next part, we'll uncover the single most overlooked force behind loyalty. Respect rooted in standards, not emotion. This is the final truth. Your energy, your time, your mission. These are not infinite resources. They are your empire, and you are the gatekeeper. What you build in this life will either stand strong or fall silently because of who you let inside your walls. Machiavelli warned rulers, never allow your enemies through the gates. But modern men, we hand the keys to women we barely know and call it love. You think she's different. You think your story will be the exception. You think this time, chaos will become peace if you're just patient enough. It won't, because the woman who mocks your mission today will mock your downfall tomorrow and call it growth. She doesn't need to destroy you with rage. She'll do it with subtle contempt, with passive withdrawal, with withheld respect. And by the time you realize the damage, you'll be standing in the ruins of a life you once dreamed of, wondering where it all went. Here's where it went. It leaked out through every compromise you made just to keep someone who was never qualified to stand beside you. So let's rewrite the code. Every woman in your life is one of two things, a fortress builder or a wrecking ball with lipstick. There is no neutral woman. She either sharpens your sword or dulls your edge. She either multiplies your discipline or drains it in the name of love. And you are not just a man. You are the gatekeeper. You decide who enters, who stays, and who leaves the moment they stop aligning. You don't ask for loyalty. You command it with the weight of your standards. And if she can't thrive in your absence, she'll never survive in your future. That's why distance is your test. Step back. Disappear. Watch. Does she protect what you've built? Or does she crumble without your constant attention? Most men never test this, because they're afraid of what they'll see. But that fear, it keeps them loyal to a fantasy, while betraying their legacy. So here's the final call. Choose wisely. Not like a beggar, but like a king. Test her. Challenge her. Let absence reveal truth. Because what she does when you're not watching tells you everything about who she really is. And if she drifts the moment you stop chasing, she was never yours. You are not just protecting your heart. You are protecting your future. So hold the line. Guard the gate. And remember, a man who fears losing a woman is already owned by her. But a man who fears losing his purpose, he owns the world. If you felt something shift inside you through this journey, if you're ready to raise your standards, reclaim your crown, and choose like a ruler, comment, "Legacy first," like this video. Share it with a brother who needs this truth, and subscribe to Echoes of Wisdom, because kings aren't born. They are rebuilt from the ashes of their illusions.